Well, week two, more testing, more tuning. One of the things that I wanted to try to work on tonight was, I want to say caster. Yeah. Wanted to work on caster on the front hubs. So the XP2 comes with 0 degrees, 2.5 degrees, and 5 degrees of caster. Kit setting is 5 degree. No. Sorry, kit is 2.5 degrees. I went to 0 degrees. Unfortunately, I didn't have 5 because I wanted to go from 0 to 5 to get that, to get the big adjustment. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to try that. In all honesty, like I could feel a little bit of a difference, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what that difference was. So that's kind of a wash. I mean, really, like I hate to feel like I did all the practicing tonight for nothing, but yeah, really, it's a wash this week on the caster. A big thing that I would like to hit on though is gearing. Holy cow. So I played with gearing some more again tonight, and the biggest thing that I see people asking questions about now is gearing. Hey, what pinion should I use for this motor? Or, what pinion and spur combo should I use for this motor? That's a loaded question. Like right out the gate. There's too many variables for anybody to give you like the proper gearing of any type, because it comes down to the motor, the settings on the motor, like timing, the strength of the rotor, how close the sensors are. There's a lot of things when it comes to the motor that'll make a difference. Then it comes down to the car, what spur you want to run. Generally speaking, a smaller spur will give you more torque, bigger, versus a bigger. Wow. It'll give you a smaller spur gives you more torque over a larger spur. So if you have like the same gear ratio with two different spurs, the smaller one you should have a little bit more torque out of. And it will also move the motor in a laydown car. It'll move the motor further back to the rear axles. Then you also have the batteries you're using, how you charge those batteries and maintain those. The quality of them, what kind of IRs they have, and I think the single biggest factor people forget about are driving style and traction. And driving style is a good one, especially when it comes to stock motors. There's a few different styles of driving when it comes to it. The real point and shoot usually want a little more torque. That way when you get around the corner, you can blast off as fast as possible to get back up to speed. And then someone that's a little more flowy will need a little less torque and can get going a little quicker. I prefer to be a little bit more on the corner speed and maintain, because honestly, the faster you can get in and out of a corner, the faster your overall laps can be. Then it comes down to traction. So on my 2018 XP2, I had an issue with it diffing out, which was really weird. We run very, very high bite carpet off-road with the black CRC Gen 2 carpet, and we run slicks on it. I think I mentioned that before. So we have so much traction that gear diffs will actually diff out. I had to go to 80K fluid in my two-wheel drive diff to get rid of all of it diffing out. That's just because the X-ray gear diff is very, very smooth. There's not a lot of mechanical bind in it. So another thing that you can do if you're running on a very high bite track like we are, if you don't have 60, 80, or 100K to play with, The other thing that a lot of the pro guys are doing are going to the metal gears and running two of the satellite gears instead of all four, and then adding two shims behind each bevel or sun gear, and satellite bevel. Yeah, yeah. So the suns are the bigger flat ones. The satellites are the smaller ones. So they're running two of those and two washers behind each one, and that'll actually, move everything in a little bit tighter, and take some of the smoothness out of it and add some mechanical bind to it. And they're also filling the diff up all the way. So with the diff up, completely full, you're going to have more fluid in there, and so you're not going to have a heavier diff than having the four of the metal gears, but you will actually get more fluid running through the gears at one time and less air pockets. So it's not. So you're not running through the air bubbles. You're actually pushing more oil actually through the gear mesh. So other than that, that was really big for me. And when I went up to the 80K and stopped the diffing out on my car, I was able to put down more power. I had more traction, literally. I could come out of a corner, get on it, and even just a nice smooth romp on the throttle, and it would blast off and go. I mean, it was great. I loved it. But it was also putting more strain on the motor. I think there was a video from Ryan Stiles Harris where he talks about when you go to a higher bite track. I think he was talking about turf. When you go to a higher bite track like turf, carpet, even a very very high bite, clay track where you're running slicks, you need to usually gear down a little bit. Because you're overworking the motor, and what I mean by that, you gear down to get more torque out of it. That way you can get going quicker, and it takes less energy. Yeah, less energy from the motor to get it going, and it doesn't bog down the motor as much to keep it going or to get going there. So I did that again today. Ended up dropping a tooth on a motor that I've been successfully running for well over a month while it was diffing out, and I consistently dropped my times down. Like before, I talked about getting a 13.7. Well, now tonight, the last run after I got all that done, it was several 13.7s. I want to say like 3 of them, and then there was plenty of 13.8s and 13.9s. So it was a significant difference in overall lap times just by dropping that tooth, and that's where it comes into play. Where when somebody recommends a gearing, it's literally just that. It's a recommendation. It's a starting point. So if I ever tell you, oh, run this timing and gearing, that's great, but you have to try out other opinions with it. And it's literally an initial place to try it at, because there's going to be a lot of other factors that nobody else will ever know of or think of. So usually what I do when I'm just starting out with a new motor, like I'm getting ready to start with another new motor here, I will go with what I think is going to work. In your case, you may go with what somebody recommends to start with. And then I really like to jump up 2 teeth or go down 2 teeth. 48 pitch, that might be a little bit much. It depends on how close you are initially. But you have to play with it. You have to find that sweet spot. So even if you're just jumping up a tooth and it's worse, jump down a tooth from where you originally started, and play with it. And you'll know when you find the right gearing. You'll go from a motor that's okay, you're like, yeah, this is kind of fast, to like, holy shit, the motor completely wakes up and is on fire. Especially with like the new monsters, the Motive, the MC2 that I was running in there, all of them tuned by Team EA Motorsports. When you get the right gearing on it, it is a rocket ship. You go from feeling like you're running a slow stock class to all of a sudden running mod. And that's phenomenal because it's it's such a rush, and that's what I like about stock. Not only is it competitive, it rewards you when you get things right. When you get your setup right, when you get your timing and gearing right, all that stuff, it just pays off huge dividends. So, yeah, long story short, anytime somebody recommends a gear ratio for you, that's a great place to start. I usually like to try local if there's enough knowledge. I know that can be a little rough sometimes if you're kind of new. It's real easy to ask, the internet. Uh, but if you can get local, try to do local. Get some help from a local fast guy. That makes a difference too. You can ask your buddy that you met last weekend, or you can go up to the fast guy and ask him. The quality of information you're going to get there is a lot different. And what do you know? I mean, you may make a new friend. He may be a dick, but you never know until you go talk to him. Usually, everybody's really friendly when it comes to RC. Everybody started where you're at, or somebody's been where you're at one point in time. So, give it a shot. And still remember, that's a starting point. Start there and then play with it. Like you can literally spend a whole entire practice day playing with gearing. But in the end, it's totally worth it. And that kind of wraps up note session number 2 for practice. Yeah, hopefully there's a lot of good information for you guys on that one. Gearing, I think, is a huge one. If you have any questions on it, feel free to shoot me a message, whatnot. Yeah. Talk to y'all next time. Have a good one.